So, we will continue look at the process characteristic of resistance spot welding. So, we looked at the various shapes of electrodes that are used for resistance spot welding, right. So, type A, type B, type C, type D, E and F. And then we also looked at the most commonly used the electrodes. Based on your weld geometry and then accessibility, we can choose the electrodes what we want to use it in spot welding applications. And for future references, you can look at the standard ISO standard 5182, which actually governs the electrode dimensions and the shapes of the electrode that are commonly used for resistance spot welding. As already explained, the most of the electrodes used in resistance spot welding, they are made of copper or copper alloys. So, in most of the automotive industries applications, the pure copper electrodes are commonly used to make spot welds in a galvanized material. There are some inherent issues by using a copper on a galvanized sheet surface, because of the zinc diffusion towards the electrode. The copper material can form the bronze or brass formation based on the galvanized sheets galvanized layers composition. So, that the electrode gets deteriorate its surface characteristic over the period of the usage. So, we are not going into detail about those aspects. We will concentrate on the main process considerations as well as metallurgy. So, we will move on to the other aspect of resistance spot welding with respect to the automotive industries. So, when you are given a material to weld using resistance spot welding, the first thing you need to do is you need to understand the effect of the welding current on the nugget formation behavior. So, you will have to see what will be the current and the welding time. So, you need to use it to get the acceptable weld nugget diameter. We generate what is known as weld growth curves in resistance spot welding. So, weld growth curves are nothing but the relationship between the welding current you use as a function of weld nugget diameter. So, weld nugget diameter, so we measure for example, if we have a sheet in overlap configuration. So, we have two sheets, so one, and then there is another sheet on bottom of that, and then you make an weld at the middle of the plates. So, it is actually going through the two sheets. The weld nugget diameter, if we say form an elliptical nugget, it can be elliptical or even circular. So, we measure the diameter, generally the Lang axis, the axis along this direction. So, that diameter we either take it as an weld nugget diameter, or you can also average it between the long and the short axis of the ellipse, and identify the weld nugget diameter on the top of either side of the surface. So, we measure this weld nugget diameter as a function of welding current. Okay. So, by fixing the load constant and under constant load, and we measure the weld nugget diameter as a function of welding current, and generally it follows a curve something like this, and then it stabilizes. So, basically what happens when you are increasing the current, obviously you also melt more volumes at the interface, and due to that you increase the diameter of the weld nugget generally and exponentially upon up to a certain diameter, and if it goes beyond that, and because of the application of load, you would end up expelling the liquid metal that is formed between the interfaces. So, for example, if you have a load and if you form a liquid at the interface, if you look at inside the cross section, upon melting more volume, then you would end up expelling the liquid metal that is formed in between the electrodes. For example, if you look at the cross section, so you form something like this, the cross sections, and you are applying a load, and if the diameter is increasing beyond a certain diameter, and if you apply load, you would also expel the liquid material that is actually formed between these two electrodes, and that situation is known as expulsion or splashing. And that is not advisable case, because then you will end up making a cavity because you are expelling the liquid metal that is formed at the faying interface. So that happens when you are using the excessively high current and with the application of load, the molten liquid is expelled, forming an undesirable cavities. So we measure until the maximum current at which you have a stable well nugget, that is known as Imax, the maximum current at which you avoid expulsion. So beyond that current, for example, in this graph I plotted the data as a function of welding current and well nugget diameter. If you look at it, say after 9 kiloamperes, we observed expulsion at around 9.3 and then 10 kiloamperes. So the 9 amperes in this case is the maximum current at which we can form a stable well nugget. Okay, that is an Imax. And we get the well growth curves as a function of welding current, and we can also get well growth curves as a function of welding time at constant welding current. So this can also be welding time at constant welding current at constant ampere. We can also develop such curves, but the most desirable or most informative the graphs for our resistance spotting application is how much current you need to pass to form a well nugget diameter of desired value. So most of the automotive applications, the guidelines, the various guidelines say the acceptable well nugget diameter is somewhere between 4 to 4.25 square root of thickness. So if a well nugget diameter, for example, if you have 1 millimeter thick sheet, your well nugget size must be around 4 mm. Okay, so the diameter must be 4 to 4.25. So 4.25 is the guidelines given by one of the Japanese automotive manufacturer. So they use the well nugget diameter, ideal well nugget diameter is 4.25 times the thickness of the sheet. So in this case, for example, if you have 1 millimeter thick plate, the ideal well nugget diameter should be 4.25. So we can identify the amperage that is required to generate such a well nugget diameter for a given welding time. So we apply in subsequent the applications the current of 5.2 kiloamperes, for example, that will give us a well nugget diameter of 4.25 mm. So such a welding curves should be generated for a given thickness, because if you change the thickness, obviously mass effect, right? So mass effect says that the temperature is divided by mCp. So if you change the thickness, your m also changes. Okay, so then you need to change the amperage to change the Q. So that will again will change your desired well nugget diameter as well. And if you change the thickness, your weld growth curve would also change, because then you will also change the Q. So for a given thickness and for a given material configuration, material composition and the coating configuration, so we need to generate weld growth curves. So that's what makes resistance spot welding is a very extensive laboratory or R&D sensitive spotting the process, because for even a small change in variation in terms of thickness, the surface composition and the material composition, you may have to develop well growth curves and identify the well nugget diameter the development as a function of welding time and welding current. Okay, and we get it in most of the R&D labs of steel making units, steel making companies as well as automotive companies. They develop such well growth curves for given thicknesses or given material, and even if you change the small composition, for example, if you change from DP 800 to DP 1000, and if you change the carbon concentration from 0.2 to 0.25, and your well growth curves would also change significantly. Similarly, if you change the thickness from 1 to 1.2, again your well growth curve may also change, and you need to identify the parameters, mainly current and welding time, for a given thickness combinations. Good. So the well nugget diameter is extremely critical to determine the actual well properties. For example, in this graph I showed you two the axes in x axis, two values in x axis, one is current and one is welding time. And as I already explained, we can generate well growth curves as a function of varying current at a constant well time, or by varying well time with the constant current. And so if you look at the shear strength or the strength of the weld when you are applying a shear load, so we will come to that, and we will in later slides how we test the resistance spot weld for shear strength. But right now you can assume that if you increase the diameter, so you will also increase the strength significantly. So basically the weld diameter will also change as a function of current and welding time. And until expulsion happens. So upon expulsion, what happens? We will not have a good nugget, good solid nugget, because the liquid metal that is formed, it is expelled because you form more volume of liquid. So ideally now we need to identify the maximum or acceptable well nugget diameter for an acceptable strength level. And this point, when the current level at which the expulsion happens, so just below that point in current is known as Imax. So Imax always gives the maximum, the largest well nugget diameter. So we will identify an Imax, and based on the guidelines we will also identify the acceptable strength level, and which can be, as a thumb rule, generally it is 4 times square root of thickness. Okay. The similar behavior you can also observe as a function of welding time. Okay. So we will identify the optimum range. So generally for a given current, so once you identify the Imax and the current at which you get the well nugget diameter of 4 by square root of thickness, and we can take the current at 4 times square root of thickness, and then in that current level we can also identify at what welding time we will get an ideal the strength of the weld. So we will again measure the shear strength as a function of welding time. We will identify the ideal current from the well growth curves, and welding time as well from the constant welding constant current experiments. So we will fix the current in this case, vary the welding time, and identify at what condition you would get an ideal the strength, the optimum strength. Okay. So as I explained, the resistance spot welding is used extensively in body in white and chassis applications, and if you look at the variety of components in an auto body, and they are welded with resistance spot welding. For example, in this case pillars I showed you, the side roof arc. So these are all the dots you see over here, these are all resistance spot welds. And similarly the other side, the various numbers and distribution of spot welds you will see in various locations in a body in white and chassis. So imagine, the average car body contains somewhere around 2000 to 5000 spot welds. So we will look at some of the commonly used process parameters for resistance spot welding. The current range, and again so the well growth curves for various alloys, you can find it in guidelines as well as in the handbooks. So this slide shows the common well growth curves for mild steel and a simple hot dip galvanized alloy steel, and again with an electro plated steel with zinc. So you see the welding time as a function of well growth the welding current. So ideally, if you look at for a material with a zinc coated steel, you need a slightly higher current, okay, than material in the mild steel, because you have a bare surface over there in the mild steel without any coating. So the weld time here again you need to note it. It is mentioned in cycles. Okay, so it is what is cycle here is the number of the current cycles in alternative current. For example, if you have 50 hertz, you will have 50 cycles in a second, right, the alternating cycle. So if it is weld time in cycle is 10, so that means that 1 by 50 times 10, so that is your time. So that will be 0.2 seconds. Okay, so that is will be 200 milliseconds. That is your the actual welding time. So generally we mention the welding time in cycles for a fixed the frequency of the current we use. Generally if you use 50 hertz AC, so then you mention 10 weld cycles. Okay, so this similar the welding weld growth curves can be generated for a material. So you see over here the composition of these steels are all the same, but just by changing the surface characteristics, your welding parameters change significantly. We are varying from 7 kiloamperes until close to 11 kiloamperes in order to make a given weld nugget diameter. So that is what this process is extremely sensitive for a change in thicknesses, surface characteristics, as well as the composition of the material. And so when you are using a dissimilar material for resistance spot welding, again, so there are a lot of issues in terms of surface characteristics as well as the weldability. And so this table can be used as a guideline. So if you want to use a dissimilar material and welding of similar material as well. So this is actually obtained from an ASM handbook. This shows an overview of various materials in column, first column. And for example, aluminum, stainless steel, brass, copper, and if you look at aluminum to aluminum spot welds, it says B. B is okay, reasonable, good. So A is excellent and B is good, C is fair, D is poor, E is very poor, and F is impractical. So for example, if you take nickel, you are trying to weld with an aluminum, it is impossible to weld. No, better don't try it. And so if you have a steel with steel, you can spot weld this much easily. Steel, stainless steel, for example, or galvanized iron. So you will have a good good weldability by looking at the what combination of materials you are going to use. So the other important aspects you need to consider except the material composition is the process consideration. So there are guidelines available in various literatures and open source forums, and the guidelines in automotive manufacturers, the placing of the welds with respect to the edge of your sheet as well as the thickness of the sheet, and the minimum distance that should be there between two spot welds. So this is the most common guidelines we use for spot welds in overlap configuration. So, so suppose if your overlapping distance is L, and so we need to place the spot welds from the edge of this plate by at a distance of L by 2. That's a minimum. So you need to do it, and you can do it as close as possible, but this is the minimum distance we need to keep in overlap configuration. You cannot move it along this direction. So the thumb line says that L by 2, so which is the half of the overlap distance. We use it when you are stacking the material. So again, this table shows the minimum dimensions for the well nugget diameter and overlap distance. So minimum well spacing, the S and L in the previous graphs based on the thickness of the plate. Okay, suppose if you have 1 mm thick, your S, that is the minimum well spacing, it must be 19. You can use it more than 19. Then you have a problem with this partitioning, and then it may affect your stiffness. So yeah, if you use shorter than 19, that is even better, but then you may also have a problem with the cooling rates and the shunt effect, which we will explain in a previous in next slides. So the guidelines for given material thickness, what overlapping distance you use, and what is the minimum distance we need to have between two wells, and these are standards available. You can use it to optimize your the weld design. And again, I mean, if you are welding in T joints, this is obviously not recommended. We do not go into detail about why it is not recommended. Obviously, we need to do in a stiffness analysis and yeah, kind of field body diagrams and those things, and we do not want to discuss about it here. So instead of having spot welds made in an L configuration, it is always advisable to have such a zigzag configuration, and which is much more advisable in terms of stiffness than having a weld made in an L configuration. So because this setup results in balanced force and minimum distortion compared to the L configuration. So some of the design aspects, design considerations, where you have to place, how you have to place the spot welds with various designs. So you can look at it in a handbook. So one of these designs specifications, I got it from an ASM handbook. For example, what is not recommended. For example, if you have a minimum, the angle is 60 degree, it is not recommended. So better you have an L flange, so that we can have a uniform load distribution and the improved stiffness of the components you are making. And you can also do a simple stiffness analysis to identify the actual geometry, the need at which you can make a spot welds. So this table again shows the information about the weld nugget diameters, force, weld thermal cycles, current used for a given thickness. So this is again a guidelines. This is actually for a simple zinc coated galvanized steel. The reference, again, I took it from a handbook. So we do not want to go into details because it is again the fundamentals are as I explained. So by if you change the welding current and welding time, you can also change the weld nugget diameter, and based on the thicknesses you can identify what current is needed for a given weld nugget size. So the most of the common testing methods we use it for resistance spot welding. They are in automotive industries to identify the weldability or the strength of the welds, or in the two tests what I explained here. This is the cross tension test. This is simple tensile test, and this is L, so or a lap shear test or L tensile shear test. Okay. So the automotive industries use generally either cross section test or the tensile shear test with an L shapes. Geometries of the plates are welded, and then you apply a tensile stress and so identify the strength. So I will explain in simple terms how the tests are carried out. So in tensile test is very simple. Now you make two overlap joint and make a spot welds at this joint and then pull it and identify the shear strength needed to, or strength required to pull or break the sample. Sample can break either in the weld zone or the heat affected zone or elsewhere. So obviously if failure happens not on the weld, it is a good weld. And so we will also calculate other parameters other than the strength. I will come to that in the subsequent slides. So right now so what we will have to understand is, so in a simple tensile stress, so we make a spot weld in overlap configuration and pull it and identify the strength as a function of either weld nugget diameter, or you can also say by as a function of welding current, which would be also the same. So as a function of shear strength, as a function of diameter, and identify as I explained. Sorry. Shear strength. And there are some issues in conducting tensile stress tensile test in a low overlap configuration, because we never know whether load is applied only to the weld. So you may also see material deforming, the base material is deforming, and so the shear strength what you are measuring it is not exactly the strength of the weld. So there are some modifications and some advancement or some regulations they actually developed to identify the actual strength of the welds. And then one of the such modifications we use in a testing methodology by making a cross tension tensile samples. So in this case what we do is, so instead of having in a simple tensile samples, so we make a weld on two sheets in a cross geometry was showed in this figure, and then we pull the top plate in tension and again the bottom plate in other direction, this direction. So in this case we identify again the strength and then identify what is the maximum stress or maximum load required to break the joint. Again material can also in this case deform not only in the weld as well as in the surrounding regions, but then we identify apart from the strength the nugget diameter after the failure. So that we known as what is known as the plug ratio. So plug ratio is what we calculate is after cross tension testing is the ratio between the actual weld nugget diameter over the plug size after failure. Okay. So, so what does it indicate? So for example, if the weld is intact and the failure happens in elsewhere, okay, your weld nugget diameter is your plug size. Okay, so your plug size is the same as weld nugget diameter. Okay, and then your plug ratio becomes 1, which is the most ideal conditions because your weld does not fail. So if you look at the cross sections, if the failure happens and elsewhere here, your weld nugget diameter is your plug size because your plug is intact. So the crack didn't happen, the material didn't fail in the weld regions, and your plug size after testing is same as weld nugget diameter, then the plug ratio is 1. Suppose if you have a complete interface failure. Okay, so you have a material which caused a complete interface failure, and the two plates after a cross tension test it separated as it was before welding. So that means that your plug ratio, so what happens here in the plug ratio is 0, right. In that case your material is so brittle after welding is causing a complete failure of the interface during the cross section test, your plug ratio is now becoming 0, and that is the most detrimental case, because your weld does not undergo any deformation, or it does not actually survive your cross section test, and leading to a complete interface failure. And you may also have a partial plug failure where you have material and some plug is left in one plate, and the other plate may have some sort of a cavity, and you can measure the remaining plug and identify what is your plug size upon the cross section test. And you may have a size of, for example, 0.8 the plug ratio, and so based on the guidelines you may identify whether 0.8 is also acceptable or not. Okay, we will summarize until this, then we will move on to the tensile shear testing. So we looked at the electrode size, various shapes what we use, and we will move on to the process characteristic of resistance spot welding. We started from the well growth curves. So what are the implications? So why we need to develop the well growth curves, and what is the minimum weld nugget diameter needed to get an ideal properties, and what are the guidelines which actually governs the nugget diameter as a function of material thickness, the compositions. And then we will move on to some of the design aspects. What is the minimum overlap distance we need to keep, and the minimum distance between two welds we need to keep. And then we will move on to the actual testing of resistance spot welds. And so far we looked at two types of tests: a simple tensile and then cross tension test. And we looked at the plug ratios, the ratio between the actual plug size remain in the plate after the cross section test over the weld nugget diameter, and if it is 1, that means that failure has happened elsewhere, and if it is 0, you have a complete interface failure, and if it is in between and you have some plug-in intact, that is slightly better for in terms of weldability.